Well, we are halfway through the 2024 NFL season. I know my cringy singing right there probably got you rolling your eyes or whatever, but hey, my channel, I call the shots. What's going on, everybody? I'm Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram, link down in the box below. Another really good week for me. 11-4 in week 9. And since week 5, I have been on a roll, man. My hot streak continues. Since week 5, I am 45-15 as I just continue to stack up solid week after solid week. But I'm really gonna focus in on the matchups this week because there are some things I have to say. So, yeah, let's get on to it, and gonna be a little something different in this video, and let's see if you can catch on to it. But yeah, these are my week 10 picks of the 2024 NFL season. Let's get on to it, and kicking things off on Thursday night, we got the Cincinnati Bengals heading to Baltimore to face the Ravens, as both teams are coming off a win, and both teams are coming off a game in which they each scored 41 points. Bengals got 41 on the Raiders for their first home win of the season, while the Ravens, they beat the Broncos and chose violence against them in the process, 41-10, a game in which Lamar Jackson tied Big Ben, unfortunately, for the most perfect passer rating games in NFL history with 4, and Derrick Henry cracked 1,000 yards rushing at the halfway point of the season, and I think that was a huge win for the Ravens right there, considering they were embarrassed by the Browns in Cleveland the previous week. Bengals, they needed that win as well to get things interesting in the AFC North. And the last time these two met, it was an interesting one to say the least, as the Ravens won 41-38, questionable calls by Zach Taylor down the final phases of the game. And the Ravens were able to rally from a 10-point deficit to beat the Bengals in overtime the last time they met. And now the Ravens just added Tre'Davious White to their secondary right there. And I think with the Ravens offense just coming in red hot and Cincinnati's defense just continuing to give up big play after big play, it's just been that way all season for the Bengals. It definitely figures to be a high scoring matchup for this one right here. I definitely take the over if you're going under over for this game, but it's not quite my rivalry of the week. I'll be getting into that one in just a little bit. But if you ask me, I think in this game right here, I'm going to vote for the Baltimore Ravens to win this one over the Cincinnati Bengals here. As the Ravens, they, like I said, they just come in red hot. They come in with a really solid offense in this one, and I think they're going to take advantage of Cincinnati's defense in this matchup here. I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this one over the Bengals. I have been dreading this matchup for weeks now, and it's finally come into fruition. We got the game in Germany. Unfortunately, I can't do a German accent, but in Germany, we got the New York Giants, Carolina Panthers in Germany Sunday morning. Needless to say, this is my toilet bowl of the week. Two really bad teams going at it. Both teams are 2-7 on the season. Both teams, I can't trust to pick either of them to win a game. But that's the life when you do pick'em videos, and that's the life when you're in a pick'em tournament. You got to be able to pick games like this. The Giants are coming off getting swept by Washington, while the Panthers are coming off a surprising win over the New Orleans Saints as they got their second win of the season. Bryce Young, of all QBs, getting a win for the Panthers. I really don't know what else to say for this game right here, other than that it's just two teams that are going to be picking in the top 5 come spring when the draft comes. So I think it's going to boil down to who I personally think I can trust more to win a game at this juncture of the season. And to me, that's going to be the New York Giants. So I am going to vote for the New York Giants to win this game over the Panthers and get their third win of the season. I just don't see Carolina winning 2 in a row. I mean, to me, they're coming off an emotional win over the Saints. They might be in for a letdown for this one, but I don't know. Plus, the Giants, they've really only had 2 bad games this whole season, and it was week 1 against the Vikings and then a couple weeks ago against Philly. Those were the only really 2 bad games that the Giants have had all season. Other than that, the defense has been stout. They've been competitive in the games. They just can't finish them up. Carolina's just been utterly dominated in the majority of the games that they've been in this season. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the New York Giants to win this one. This might be the last time I take the Giants all season. Then we got another toilet bowl candidate, in my opinion, but I think it just misses it. We got the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears going at it in Chicago, as the Patriots are coming off a loss in overtime to the Titans. They are 2-7 on the season. And the Bears, they got clobbered by the Cardinals down in Arizona 29-9, a game in which Caleb Williams got injured in the final phases of the game, and Chicago's coach kept him in the game with the team down 20. I mean, that right there, I mean, you're down 20 points right there, and the quarterback that you tanked for is still in the game when your team's down 20. That just makes no sense to me right there. So Caleb Williams is questionable for this game, but if I had to put any kind of money on it, I would say I would lean towards Caleb Williams starting in this game. But it's just a dumb move altogether to keep your quarterback in the game down 20 points when you're not going to win and you've had a rough day. So that's just more the same with the Bears, just coaching ineptness right there. Anyway, I am going to vote for the Chicago Bears to win this one over the Patriots here. Why? Because it's a battle of 2 quarterbacks that are both a little bit roughed up coming to this one. Drake May coming off that concussion a couple weeks prior, and Caleb Williams is questionable. But I think the thing that makes me decide this one is Chicago's defense here. They had to play that Cardinal offense that's capable of going off at any given moment. I don't think they got to worry about that so much with New England. Their offense is just utterly putrid, and I think the Bears defense is going to take advantage of that in this one here. So, yeah, I'm going to take Chicago to win this one over the Patriots. Then we got the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts going at it in Indy, as the Bills are coming in this one at 7-2, and they're coming off a last-second dub over the Miami Dolphins, a game in which the Bills kicked a last-second field goal against the Dolphins, and they struggled at some points against Miami. But, hey, it's about how you can win a game, and it's about, stacking up dubs as much as you can, and that's what the Bills have been doing. Then you got the Colts. They are 4-5 on the season, and they dropped it to the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday night. Not a good game for the Colts. I mean, they're just looking like a very mediocre team, and they have to be one of the biggest letdowns this season. Anthony Richardson crying and whining about, well, I need a break. I'm too tired. I don't know if I can finish off the game. Yeah, pal, you're projected to be the starting quarterback of an NFL team, and you're complaining that you need a break. This guy's never going to last in the NFL. He never is. So the Colts named Joe Flacco their starter for the rest of the season, and personally, I think it's the right move because if you're going to have that quarterback, whine and cry that he needs a break, I don't see why he should be playing any kind of games if that's the case. Meanwhile, Buffalo, they're just a well-oiled machine offensively. And going up against that Colts defense that's very prone to giving up big plays, and the fact that the Bills play Kansas City in the following week, I think the Bills are going to need every ounce of momentum possible going to that one. My vote goes to the Buffalo Bills to win this one over the Indianapolis Colts and get their 8th win of the season. I think it could possibly be a little bit closer than what people think, but yeah, I'm not going to pretend like the Colts are some dynamic team and there's some amazing team that's going to stand in the way of a bunch of other teams. They're just running into a really good Bills team, and I think Buffalo's going to expose that. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this one over the Indianapolis Colts. Next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars going at it in Jacksonville. And I don't really think I need to say anything other than I am voting for the Minnesota Vikings as my lock of the week right here. Vikings got back on their winning ways against the Colts on Sunday night, as despite playing sloppy at some points in the game, the Vikings were able to stave it off, and they were able to rally and beat the Colts as their offense got things going in the second half of that game against Indy. As for Jacksonville, they hung in there a little bit, or yeah, Jacksonville did play. But yeah, as for Jacksonville, they did hang in there against Philly, but ultimately the Eagles just proved to be too much for the Jaguars. And Jacksonville, I mean, they're just a franchise that's in total disarray, and they're going up against a Vikings offense that's very explosive, and they can put up some big plays, and they can score a lot of points. So yeah, I am taking Minnesota as my lock of the week right here. Then we got my rivalry of the week right here. That's right. This is my rivalry of the week right here. Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs going at it in Arrowhead, as despite the Broncos getting blown out by the Ravens 41-10, Denver, I still wouldn't sleep on them. They've still won 5 of their last 7, and I think if just a couple more things go right for them, they could be competing for a playoff spot, but they really need to get things figured out offensively because, if the Broncos get in a big deficit against Kansas City like they did against Baltimore, I just don't see the Broncos making it a comeback right here. But Denver defensively, they are tough and they are still a really good defensive unit. I don't think one game defines that, as they just ran into a really good Baltimore offense, but still, I'm not counting the Broncos out totally yet in this one. Plus, they split with Kansas City last year, and and in both games, Denver was really competitive, especially in the game that they beat the Chiefs in. Speaking of those Chiefs, they are 8-0 on the season, and another controversial win for them as the refs missed a false start on Kansas City, but in my opinion, the Chiefs are winning that game regardless. Why Todd Bowles didn't go for 2 points on that touchdown right there, you're going up against the defending champions. You don't have a lot of momentum right there. Just go for 2. It's just basic. It's just basic knowledge at that point, and it's just having aggression against a team that needs to get a loss in their record right there. So Kansas City's 8-0. And even though the Chiefs are finding ways to win and they are still sleepwalking through the season, fact is they're racking up wins, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 touchdowns in his Chiefs debut, and Kansas City's defense continues to play really well. And going up against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix and that Denver offense that's still underdeveloped, I think that's a huge mismatch in this one right here. However, I do think the Broncos can make it a very interesting game as they got a stout defense on their own, as I said, and Kansas City's offense has been underwhelming for the majority of the season. Like I said, D-Hop with 2 touchdowns, I think that should be a shot of adrenaline for Kansas City's offense right there. But the number one thing that I'm leaning towards in this one is that Patrick Mahomes always has really good games against the Denver Broncos. I don't know what it is about him playing the Broncos and him just going off on them, but that's been the case throughout the majority of his career outside of the second game between these two last year. So I am gonna vote for the Kansas City Chiefs to win this one and improve to 9-0, but I would not be surprised if the Broncos actually pulled off the upset here, as I do think Kansas City is potentially on upset watch for this one right here. But regardless, I'm taking Kansas City to win a very tight one, a defensive standoff against the Broncos. Then we got another rivalry, as it is the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints going at it in the Superdome. And man, oh man, what a nosedive the Saints have taken. They went from 2-0, 91 points in 2 weeks, and they have now dropped 7 straight games. They fired Dennis Allen. Chris Olave, they lost to in a concussion, and they just traded Lattimore to our opponent in Washington, which I'll be getting into in a little bit. In other words, the Saints are just punting the season. They sold at the deadline. It's over. The Saints are done. Meanwhile, Atlanta is 6-3. They continue to play well as the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken, Atlanta completed the sweep of Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken, this past week. They could have played somebody else, but I know Atlanta won again, and they're 6-3 on the season. So the Falcons continue to play really well. And I think the only thing, or no, wait, the Falcons beat the Cowboys. I'm sorry, but they did sweep the Bucs. That was just the week before. But anyway, I think the only thing that the Falcons need to be concerned about for this game is Drake London nursing a hip injury. But I really don't think that's gonna factor in too much for this game because I do think Drake London could be healthy enough to play in this game. Even if he doesn't, they still got Kyle Pitts and they can still run the ball very efficiently with Bijan Robinson. New Orleans' defense is just so bad and their offense has gone stagnant. My vote for this one, Atlanta completes the sweep of the Saints and drop them their 8th straight loss. New Orleans just has no momentum whatsoever. Like I said, they sold at the deadline. They're just punting the season and they're just accepting the fact that their season's over. Atlanta's playing to clinch the NFC South. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons to win this one over the Saints. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers and the Tampa Bay Bucs going at it in Tampa as the 49ers are coming off their bye week, and the week before, they defeated the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. And the big headline for this one is that CMC could make his debut in this game for the 49ers, his season debut for 2024. That should be huge for San Francisco right there, considering that CMC had that extra week, seeing that it was San Francisco's bye week. And I think Deebo Samuel is healthy enough to be fully active in this game, as is George Kittle. So San Francisco's offense is getting healthy at the right time. It reminds me a lot of 2021 when the Niners got off to that shaky start because of injuries and health concerns. And now they're playing good football at the right time. And their defense is still as potent as ever. Tampa Bay, the Bucs, got off to a promising start, and they've just taken a downward spiral ever since then. And an overtime loss to Kansas City is just looking real bad for them right now. Mike Evans has a possibility of returning in this game, but to be honest with you, I really don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I am voting for the 49ers to win this one over Tampa Bay and improve to 5-4 on the season and keep things very interesting in that wacky NFC West out there. So I am taking the 49ers to win this one over Tampa Bay. Now, folks, we got my matchup, and I am putting this as my game of the week right here. The 6-2 Pittsburgh Steelers go into our nation's capital in D.C. to take on the Washington Commanders, who are 7-2, and they're coming off a win over the Giants, completing the season sweep of them. Gonna try to keep this one short because I have a lot to say in this video right here. So the Steelers are 6-2 coming off the bye week, having won 3 straight, and the offense has been playing very well, averaging almost 32 points a game since week 6. Now we added Mike Williams to the receiving core, which I'm not completely in love with. Personally, I would have liked Darius Slayton a little bit more, but Mike Williams is an upgrade in my opinion, so that's going to probably put CA3 in the slot a little bit more as we have Mike Williams and George Pickens now on the outside as far as the receiving core goes. And then we get Preston Smith from the Green Bay Packers as well for an extra boost as far as the pass rush goes. So he's going to be on the defensive line right there. So yeah, I can't really hate what Omar Khan did in the trade deadline. But yeah, at least the Steelers are trying to do something to really assert themselves as being a serious contender in the AFC. So I do applaud the effort right there. Russell Wilson's been playing very well. Najee Harris has been playing fantastic these past couple weeks. The O-line does have concerns with it as well, but I think that they've done a really good job with run blocking lately. And the defense just continues to do their thing, cause pressure, force turnovers, and it's a bend but don't break type of defense. The chunk plays that the defense allows needs to stop, and the defense needs to be more consistent with stopping the run. And that's an area of concern right there because aside from who, Jaden Daniels, who is it seems like I say this every week about the guy, who is undoubtedly the rookie of the year. He also is making a case for MVP as well. So that's the cream of the crop right there with Washington right there. They do have a couple of other good receivers like Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown. But Washington also runs the ball very efficiently as well. So this is a game where our rush defense is really going to have to step things up here. And I think it's a little bit more advantageous for Washington right there as far as the run game versus our run defense goes. Also, with us giving up big chunk plays, it kind of seems to be, in favor of Washington right there because we know that Jaden Daniels has all the components and he has all the intangibles to be a superstar quarterback in the NFL, as if he's not one already. But I'm talking about a consistently great quarterback, like on the level of Patrick Mahomes is what I'm talking about with Jaden Daniels. So, I mean, Washington, they definitely have their quarterback going forward. And with our defense giving up big chunk plays like that, they can't do that against a guy like Jaden Daniels. Plus, Jaden Daniels also knows how to use his legs as well. He's a dynamic, he's just an overall dynamic player, is what I'm getting at right there. However, the one thing that Washington does lack is that they are not a good red zone offense. They are bottom tier with red zone offense. You ever notice that the majority of Washington's scoring plays have been long plays and they haven't been really in the red zone? It's because Washington hasn't been a good red zone offense. Our red zone defense, on the other hand, total opposite. We are the best red zone defense in the NFL. So to beat Washington here, we gotta we gotta beat them in the red zone. That's the number one key to victory with beating Washington in this one. And you also just got to make life very uncomfortable for Jaden Daniels because for as great of a player as he is so far, I'm talking about you got to hit him hard. You got to make him feel the hurt, but don't injure him. Okay? Those are two words that people always seem to confuse. It doesn't really mean the same thing. I want the Steelers to put the hurt on him, but I don't want him to get injured. You know what I mean? I don't want him to sustain an injury. You just got to make life very uncomfortable for a rookie quarterback right there. And finally, Washington's defense. They haven't really been solid defensively either. Washington does give up a lot of plays defensively, and I think we need to strike while the iron's hot with our offense that's just been on a tear lately. And the biggest advantage for us in this one, personally for me, we're coming off our bye week, while Washington, they have great momentum on their side, undoubtedly, but I always seem to tend to lean more towards the team that has extra rest. And in this matchup, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I was going back and forth on this one, but at the end of the day, my vote goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers to pull off the upset. That's right, baby. The Steelers are my upset of the week right here. I do think Washington's going to give us a phenomenal game. If you were in my stream the other day, I said personally, this is the toughest game that we have on our schedule remaining, as the second half of our schedule is very brutal. Don't need to go into the details of it. You guys all know it. But getting a win in DC and then going back home to face the Ravens the following week and then a short week against Cleveland, the Steelers need as much momentum as possible over these next couple weeks. Washington is a very good team, but I think they're beatable. And Mike Tomlin, the Steelers in the Mike Tomlin era do have a really good track record of coming off a bye. I just think that Jaden Daniels is going to run into a really good defense here that can expose the setbacks that Washington has on the season so far. I do expect a really solid game, but I'm going with my guys to pull off the upset here. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers to defeat Washington. Later slate of Sunday games. First up, we got the Tennessee Titans and the Los Angeles Chargers in Inglewood, as the Titans are coming off an overtime win against the Patriots, and they are 2-6 on the season, if I'm not mistaken. And meanwhile, the Chargers are coming off a dominant win over, guess who? The Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, 27-10. As the Chargers, they are playing some pretty good football at 5-3. I do like LA's defense in this matchup right here, going up against that Titans offense that just can't get anything going, no matter if it's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph at this point. Tennessee just has no cohesion, and they have no fluid kind of offense. And for that reason, I think LA's defense steps up to the reins here. Their run game gashes Tennessee. My vote goes to the Chargers to win this one over the Tennessee Titans and improve to 6-3, keeping the pressure, well, the slight amount of pressure that they have on Kansas City in the AFC West. But I am going to take the Chargers to defeat the Titans. Then we got the New York Jets and the Arizona Cardinals going at it in Glendale. The Jets are 3-6, and they're coming off a surprising win on Halloween against the Houston Texans, a game in which the Jets defense finally played up to par, and they got the job done just enough offensively as well, as maybe Houston is kind of not the juggernaut that we thought they'd be. But that's going to be coming up in just a little bit right there. But the Jets, they got the job done. They're 3-6 on the season. And I think if there's any kind of confidence that that Jets fans may have left for this season is that around this time, Aaron Rodgers based teams do tend to play better football. So that's a takeaway with the Jets right there. As for Arizona, they are currently leading the NFC West at 5-4. They demolished the Chicago Bears 29-9. Okay? But the thing that worries me for this game personally is that the Cardinals are just so unpredictable. When you think the Cardinals have turned a corner and you think that they're starting to play well and you think that they're going to assert themselves to being a good team in the NFC, they pull some kind of crap and they drop a game that they probably should win. Arizona is just an untrustworthy team, in my opinion. And then the Jets, the biggest advantage that they have going in this game, despite the fact that they're flying out west from New Jersey, is that the Jets had the extra rest factor having last played on Thursday night. And if you know these types of videos and if you know my pick'em style, you know that I usually tend to go with the team that has the extra rest. And I think that's what I'm going to do for this one right here. My vote for this one actually goes to the New York Jets because, like I said, they have more rest than Arizona in this matchup here. And the Jets defense, I think if they are to have a turning point in the season, they got to use that Houston game as a confidence booster. So, I mean, I don't know if you can really call this an upset here because Arizona is just so unpredictable. But I don't know. I think the Jets got to use that win they had against Houston as just a confidence booster here. So, I think at this point, I think I trust the Jets a little bit more than I trust Arizona, is what I'm getting at. So I'm going to go with the Jets to win this one over the Cardinals. Then we got one of the most heated rivalries in NFL history as we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. This one is down in Dallas, but this matchup has lost its luster, and that's why it's not my rivalry of the week. Philly is 6-2 on the season, if I'm not mistaken, and they're starting to play like the team that I thought they'd be at the beginning of the season. The offense is rolling, and while the defense is still suspect and still prone to giving up big plays, in my opinion, Philly is just really clicking on all cylinders right here, and they're looking like the team that I thought they'd be. Saquon Barkley still is unstoppable. And the only thing that really concerns me about Philly going into this one is AJ Brown going to be okay to play? Because I know he had a knee injury in week 9 against Jacksonville, but even then Philly they made that game uncomfortably close against Jacksonville. But going into this one, the Eagles have struggled in Dallas as they have not won in Dallas since 2017, actually, which was the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's right. The Eagles haven't won in Dallas in 7 years. But the Cowboys, they are just not the same team that has just owned Philly over the years. And any kind of confidence that Cowboys fans have had to turn their season around, even though, outside of the fact that they're winless at home, Dak Prescott is going to miss several weeks as he suffered a hamstring injury in their week 9 game against the Atlanta Falcons, which the Cowboys ended up losing. And now CeeDee Lamb is hurt as well. So there goes Dallas's best player on offense right there in CeeDee Lamb. And there goes the one player that always plays the Philadelphia Eagles well and Dak Prescott. I just don't think Dallas has any confidence for this game. Their defense is still crippled. Their defense still gives up a lot of big plays. And going up against the Eagles offense that has newfound confidence in themselves, my vote here, Philadelphia wins for the first time in Dallas since 2017. I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles to win this one. I just think the Eagles are just going to overwhelm the Cowboys from the get-go, and honestly, it's not going to be close. This was close to being my lock of the week, but the fact that it is a divisional matchup and you never know what can happen, and the fact that Cooper Rush has done decent as Dak's backup, again, you just never really know. But in a vacuum, I think Philly has way more advantages than the Cowboys in this one. And that's why I'm going to roll with the Philadelphia Eagles to defeat the Dallas Cowboys in week 10. Sunday night football, check your local listings as we have a marquee matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans going at it in Houston as the Lions I've said it for the past couple weeks now, and I will continue to say it. In my opinion, they're the best team in the NFL. They're 7-1. They've won 6 straight games. Their only loss came in week 2 to Tampa Bay. But ever since then, the Lions have just been on a tear. And I think if there's one team that's going to stop Kansas City from three-peating, it's the Lions. I mean, who thought that we'd be saying that about Detroit? The Lions have a ton of expectations and they have a ton of momentum, and they're living up to par with it. Like I said, I think they're the best overall team in the NFL right now. They're definitely the most complete team. The offense they have is just incredible. Defense does have a little bit of flaws, but the defense is still tough enough to limit opponents. As the Lions got it done over Green Bay 24-14. I just don't think there's any stopping Detroit right now. I really don't. I really don't know if there's an NFC team that can consciously beat Detroit at this moment. Maybe San Francisco, maybe Philly, but that's about it. Even then, I think the Lions are better than those two teams. As for the Texans, yes, they're 6-3. Yes, it suggests that they're a dominant team, but you know, I think the Texans are a little bit of fake news right now because even though they've been winning, they have been struggling in a lot of the games that they've been playing this season outside of a couple. So yes, Houston is 6-3. They are leading the AFC South, but I'm being a little bit cautious with them. I don't know if Houston really is that dominant force. I mean, sure, Stephon Diggs missing the whole season with an ACL is not going to help them any further, but I don't know. There's just something about the Texans that just rubs me the wrong way with them if they are continuously struggling in these games. And even though the Texans did play on Halloween last week and they do have the extra rest, and I think that's a big advantage for them, like I said, I just don't see anyone stopping Detroit right now. My vote here, Detroit improves to 8-1. They win their 7th straight and they give Houston their 2nd loss in a row. I'm going with the Lions to win this one over the Texans, and I'll make this my spread of the week. I do think Houston can give them a good game, but in the end, I just think Detroit is just a more well-rounded team than the Texans are, and I just think that they'll come away and win this one. I think Detroit covers, and I'll say they win 24-21 over the Texans to improve to 8-1. Wrapping up week 10, we got the trickiest one to pick, in my opinion. Monday Night Football, we got the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Rams in Inglewood. I'm just going to say it right now. I really don't think it matters who I pick for this one because I think I'm going to get this one wrong no matter who I pick. But we got the Dolphins and the Rams. This is the game that I'm least confident for week 10. Miami, I will say the Dolphins with Tua being back, even though that they've lost both games, The Dolphins have lost both of those games via in the last seconds with a field goal or a touchdown. So Miami is being a little bit competitive, you know. So there you go right there with the Dolphins. As for the Rams, they had an overtime thriller against the Seahawks in Seattle where the Rams won. So they're starting to play some better football. But the Rams, I don't know. The defense that they had just getting gashed and giving up some big plays, including the game tying touchdown in regulation that sent the game to overtime. Even though the Rams did come up with that big stop on the Seahawks in overtime, I think it was more of bad play calling by Seattle right there that doomed themselves. I think Seattle beat themselves in that game more than LA won it. Not taking anything away from the Rams because you got to win as much as you can, especially if you're in the NFC West. But if you ask me, I think Seattle lost that game more than LA won it. And as for the Dolphins, they are starting to play a little bit better offensively. Um, Again, this was the trickiest one for me to pick, but it kind of seems like the Rams do give up big plays with their defense. And the Dolphins, when they're fully healthy and they're fully put together, they do have an offense that's capable of getting some big plays. So I may regret this, but I'm going to take a gamble here and vote for the Miami Dolphins to win this game over the Rams in LA and get their third win. I think Miami is just due for a win right now, and I think they have a little bit more confidence in themselves and that they'll finally find a way to close out a game. So, again, I may regret this one, but I'm going to take the Dolphins to win this one over the Rams. Well, were you able to catch on what I did differently in this one? It's because no matter who you vote for to be the president of the United States, I will not block you. I will not be friends with you. I respect who you vote. I respect your opinion. I respect that you voted. I may not agree with who you voted for, but I'm not one of those assholes who says, "Oh, you're not my friend because you didn't vote for the same person that I voted for." But that's how it is. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning. We had 4 teams on the bye, so 14 games this week. Cleveland, Green Bay, Vegas, and Seattle all had their buys. So I forgot to mention that at the beginning. But yeah, those are my week 10 picks. And let's get on to it. Let's have another strong week. Let's keep the train rolling. Mac checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.